It never rains on Dry Hill Road, does it?
I don't reckon it's dry here all night.
Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody on this beautiful Wednesday night? I'm tired.
Hey, tired.
Hey, tired.
Hey, Logan.
Marty is bringing the trailer from the fair, so after church, we've got to unload the deep freezer.
Wait a minute, we're just here for services.
And a few totes.
No, worship service.
So if we could, all hands on deck. If you want to help.
Or you come
help us.
sit with
Yeah,
them.
he's coming, he's a little late.
And we're going to sing page 138. We'll do the first, second, and fourth verse, the old Baptist way.
Yeah, I brought it. Oh my gosh, how talented you are.
Y'all shouldn't even need your books for that one.
I thought you liked that.
We're going to sing our medley tonight, too. We haven't practiced it, so just bear with us. I bet it still sounds good, though.
I'm sure it will. Always does.
Have you been to Jesus for the cleansing power?
Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
Are you fully trusting in His grace this hour?
Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you washed in the blood, in the soul cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are you garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
Would you be free from the burden of sin?
There's power in the blood, power in the blood.
Would your evil a victory win?
There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb.
Some glad morning when this life is o'er,
I'll fly away spotless are they white as snow. Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
Oh, just like the organ. Good thing we didn't practice, isn't it?
Yeah, so we all use all, that's what happens on Sunday morning. We use all of our good stuff in practice, and then by the time service, we got nothing left. So raw.
I have been fighting a cold, so I may not be able to talk more than about 12 minutes.
12 minutes, or Brother Jimmy's 12 minutes.
I don't want to use up my
What I
voice
asked.
describing it. I have a whole bunch of pages here, but the font's really big, so. Oh, I forgot to bring my Bible up here.
We've heard that before.
Right?
We got it. I guess we do.
So awkward saying it. Is that not recording? Did that stop recording?
We turned you.
It did. It went off.
Well, all
Well,
right.
let's see if it comes back. Okay. We got 4 chapters to talk about tonight. The book of Jonah. It's 4
We'll be here
chapters
all
long.
night.
What?
We'll be here all night.
Just said, you need to go get your pillow back.
You know how long it takes Brother Jimmy to get through 3 verses?
I know.
Sorry, Coach.
All right.
Pick on it.
Seriously, we are in Jonah. There are only 4 chapters. We are not going to read every verse. Did somebody say amen and hallelujah? Did I?
I think so. I heard it. You could just
Somebody
hear.
thought it out loud.
They
They
really
did.
did.
They did it like this.
You just know how I think.
second it.
You just know how I think.
All right, I have titled this, Who is Your Nineveh? And Vanessa said, it's where, not a who. So she's right, but I want to focus on the people and not the city, okay? So I'm going to keep the title, respectfully.
You're right.
Got a question for you first before we get into this, question to ponder. Has God ever told you to do something and you went the other way? Did it work out for you? Have you ever thought that you could just ignore God and all would still be fine? All right? But it didn't work that way, did it? You might not have been swallowed by a big fish, but your plans failed, am I right? We climb and we climb and we fall back down to square one when if we just follow God from the beginning, well, we'll get there in a minute. How many of you know the story of Jonah and the whale? We've known it since we were about 4 years old, right? Jonah said no to God and he ran away, but God sent a big fish to swallow him and get him back on the right track, right?
Yep, we got it.
Shows the power of God, right? There's a lot more to it than that. And if y'all have studied this before, I apologize. Go ahead and take your nap, play on your phone, whatever. If this is nothing to you too.
Okay.
I will take names.
What'd you say, Deborah?
I said I will take names.
I said, I'm writing technology violations.
There you go.
We're going to recap chapter 1. Chapter 1 is where God tells Noah to go to Nineveh. I'm sorry, God tells Jonah.
Tells no
Not
one.
Noah. I typed Noah so many times.
Somebody with all that water, right?
That's right.
Somebody with the water.
Could have been Moses.
You was
Billy said it might have been Moses. All right, chapter 1 tells us how God told Jonah to go to Nineveh, right? And Jonah went the other direction. It does not tell why. Chapter 1 does not tell why. This is a very, very important point. It just says that Jonah said no to God. He went down to the port of Joppa and he paid for a boat ride to Tarshish. He didn't just run away, he actually went and bought a ticket on a boat to get away, to go the other direction. So then what happens? God sends a strong wind and a storm so bad that it can tear the ship apart. The sailors on board were afraid they were dying. And then in verse 5, and I'm reading from the NIRV, y'all reading whatever version you want. This is the one that's most easily recognized, easily understood by third graders. All of the sailors, it really is. Miss Geraldine, that's not a joke. It's written on the third grade level. It really is. She's laughing.
He's hoping for kids being here.
What's that? That's it.
I'm
There's
gonna
no
get
doubt what the
offended.
words mean.
But I didn't like it.
Absolutely. All of the sailors were afraid. Here's the important part. Each one called out to his own God for help. They threw the ship's contents into the sea. They were trying to lighten the boat so it wouldn't capsize. They were trying to make the ship lighter, but Jonah had gone below deck, and there he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. So verse 6 talks about how the captain goes down and wakes up Jonah. Verse 7, they cast lots to see who was to blame for the storm. And of course, Jonah was the winner in this little lottery, right? So they asked him what he had done, and he told them that he was running from the God, very important here, that created the land and the sea. He wasn't just running from his God, he was running from the God, the Creator God. They asked him, what do we need to do to calm the sea then, since it's your fault? And he told them, throw him overboard. It's the only thing that would do it. They didn't want to do it. Now this is where the kid's story just says, okay, they threw him overboard, whale swallowed him, happy ending, right? Here's the next part, verse 13. Instead of doing what Jonah said, the men did their best to row back to land. They did not immediately throw him overboard, even though he said, this is how to get out of this, throw me overboard. They didn't want to do it because they knew it was wrong. You don't just kill somebody because your boat's about to fall, about to go underwater. They couldn't row back to land. The sea got even rougher than before. I believe God kept them from returning, okay? God was like, nope, we've started this is where we're going. Verse 14, they cried out, not Jonah. They, the captain and the people on the boat. Now before, remember I said, each one cried out to his own God for help. Now, they cried out to the Lord. They prayed, Lord, please don't let us die for taking this man's life. After all, he might not be guilty of doing anything wrong, so don't hold us accountable for killing him. Lord, you always do what you want to. Verse 15, they took Jonah, threw him overboard, and the stormy sea became calm. I believe that was immediate. It doesn't say immediately, but I believe the wind just stopped and everything just settled down. Verse 16, when the men saw what had happened, pay attention to this, they began to have great respect for the Lord. They offered a sacrifice to him and they made promises to him. Have you ever read that before? The people on the boat came to God because of Jonah's actions. So let's back up. Jonah's told to go to one place, right? And he goes the opposite way. God sends a storm, and the men end up turning to God. This tells us a very important thing here. God can use us even when we refuse to be used. It does not give us an excuse to go the other direction and say, well, God told me to go there, I'm going to go there instead. He can still use me if he wants to. That's not the right attitude to have. But God is still sovereign. He can still do what he wants to do. Moving on to chapter 2. It's going quick enough, isn't it? Jonah is praying from inside the fish. Okay, God prepared this giant fish to swallow him. Verse 7, when my life was nearly over, I remembered you, Lord. My prayer rose up to you. It reached you in your holy temple in heaven. Verse 8, some people worship the worthless statues of their gods. They turn away from the grace you want to give them. Verse 9, but I will sacrifice a thank offering to you, and I will sing a song of thanks. I will do what I have promised, Lord. You are the one who saves. Jonah basically has a completely different change of heart, right? I don't believe it's because he's being punished by riding inside of a fish. I think it's just he's about as low as you can get. Underwater, inside, it's dark, and he cries out to God. And like he said, my prayers have reached you in your holy temple in heaven. So the fish spit him up on dry ground in Nineveh, right? No. Doesn't say he was in Nineveh. It took him back to where he started. He still had to go to Nineveh. God told him to go. God didn't take him there in the fish. Fish spit him up on dry land, and God told Jonah again, go to Nineveh. The whale took him back to dry ground, blah, blah, blah. I'm just looking through my notes here, make sure I don't miss anything. The city was so big that it would take 3 days to see it all. I think Brother Jimmy brought that out one time when we were talking about this. I can't remember if it was from here or in the men's Bible study, but the city of Nineveh was so big it would take 3 days to get from one end to the other. The first day that he was there, he announced, this is chapter 3 now, verse 4, in 40 days, Nineveh will be destroyed. Verse 5, the people of Nineveh believed God's warning. They decided not to eat any food for a while. They fasted. Again, this is, Brother Billy, this is talking about the 3rd grade reading level. 3rd grader may not know what fasting means, but they know what doesn't eat for a while means. So that's an example of that. They decided not to eat any food for a while. All of them put on black clothes. We would call that sackcloth and ashes. They put on black clothes. That's what everyone from the least important of them to the most important did. And then verses 6, 7, and 8, I'm not going to read every word, but they tell where the word reached the king of Nineveh, okay, the highest office of the city. Word reached the king, and the king repented and declared that the entire city would, and I quote, call out to God with all your hearts, stop doing what is evil, don't harm others. In verse 9, says, who knows, God might take pity on us. He might turn away from his burning anger, and then we won't die. So the king repented. He believed God's really going to destroy this place in 40 days. We better straighten up. In verse 10, God saw what they did. They stopped doing what was evil, so he took pity on them. He did not destroy them as he said he would. I want to stop right here and say one word, salvation. This is a picture of salvation. The prophet of God, a man sent from God, Jonah, was sent to warn them that they would be destroyed. They repented, and what did God do? He forgave. That's salvation right there in a nutshell. Now, a lot of times people stop at this part of the story. This is where we're actually, that's the front porch. This is where we're actually going to get into the meat of this. This is where the real truth begins. Chapter 4. It's all in chapter 4 here. Verses 1, 2, and 3. But Jonah was very upset. He became angry. He prayed to the Lord and said, Lord, isn't this exactly what I thought would happen when I was still at home? That's why I was so quick to run away to Tarshish. I knew that you are gracious. You are tender and kind. You are slow to get angry. You are full of love. Anybody disagree with any of those things that Jonah said? You are a God who takes pity on people. You do not want to destroy them. Lord, take away my life. I'd rather die than live. A man of God who believed in God, who called out to God, who did what God said to do, went and talked to these people, and they repented. He didn't like it. That's some harsh truth right there. Remember the title? Who's your Nineveh? Who out there do you look at and you'd rather see them destroyed than to take the word of God to them? And before you make a knee-jerk reaction and just simply say, I'm not like that, okay? Stop and say, get behind me, Satan, and let's keep on looking, all right? Who do you invite to church? People that you would want to hang around with? What about people that dress like you, right? Talk like you, same skin color? This kind of people we invite church, right? Have you ever approached a homeless person and shared Jesus with them? Don't answer out loud, just this is for you to ponder. Have you ever bought somebody a meal that you knew could never buy you one back? Ever offered to pray with a homeless person? Or do you turn the other way? And I'm talking to myself too. Let's see what else chapter 4 tells us. Remember in verse 3, Jonah said, Lord, take away my life. I'd rather die than live, right? God replied in verse 4, do you have any right to be angry? Think about that. Do you have any right to be angry? We've talked about how God is sovereign, right? Agreed? Everybody agree? God is sovereign. Does he have the right to do whatever he wants?
Yep.
We know that we have no right whatsoever to question him, right? Do we?
Nope.
We don't? I do.
We do question him, but we don't have the right to.
We don't have the right to, no, but we do. And like God told Job, When you create a universe, then we can talk. When you've done what I've done, then we can actually have a conversation about this. Jonah, chapter 4, verse 5, Jonah left the city. He sat down at a place east of it. There he put some branches over his head, and he sat in the shade of the branches. He wanted to see what would happen to the city. Now remember, first thing Jonah said when he walked in the city was what? God's going to destroy this place in 40 days. He's sitting down to watch the excitement. Remember, we're not necessarily told everything in order. So we don't know if Jonah said on day one and then went and sat down, or if he walked through the whole city for 3 days and then went and sat down. But the implication here is that he found a comfortable place to sit and watch God destroy these people. Remember, the message God told him to give is that Nineveh will be destroyed in 40 days. And I think that he was literally waiting to watch the action. Because Nineveh was a wicked city. The book of Nahum, we won't turn to there tonight, but if you want to make a note of that, the book of Nahum talks about Nineveh and Assyria. Zephaniah talks about it, and there are secular historians. I actually found some artwork and impressions and things like that that mention that show scenes of Assyrians brutally conquesting other people, torturing, mutilating their enemies. They're not friends of the Hebrews. Traditionally speaking, Nineveh was an enemy city. Okay, Assyria, enemy, right? Jonah, chapter 4, verse 6, then the Lord sent a vine, or the King James calls it a gourd, and made it grow up over Jonah where he's sitting down. He's sitting there, I'm picturing him with his back against the tree. He's put some branches up above him to kind of give him some shade. God makes a gourd grow, or vines, whatever words you want to use, but he makes extra stuff grow to give Jonah some more shade for his head. Made Jonah very comfortable. He was happy he had this vine. Before sunrise the next day, God sent a worm, chewed up the vine or gourd so much that it dried up. Then the sun rose, in verse 8, God sent a burning east wind. The sun beat down on Jonah's head and it made him very weak. I'm sure he'd just been sitting there not eating or drinking, so now he's in the heat, in the sun. He wanted to die, so he said, I'd rather die than live. This man was, yeah. Would y'all say he's hard to please? Are we ever hard to please? No, we won't go into that. No. Verse 9, God said to Jonah, do you have any right to be angry about what happened to this vine? And Jonah said, I do. In fact, I'm angry enough to die. So God sent something to help. Then God took that something away, right?
Yep.
Then God asked Jonah if he had the right to be angry. Now we can laugh at that today, but do we act like that? Who knows best, God or us? Do we act like God knows best all the time? No. Verse 10, the Lord said, you have been concerned about this vine, but you did not take care of it. You did not make it grow. It grew up in one night and died the next. Now this is used as an example, but it's a very important one, I think. Let's look at that a different way. There are things that happen on this world, in our lives, that we have no control over, and we didn't help with in the slightest, but we reap the benefits, right? Did any of y'all go out and build any of the TVA dams? But we reap the benefit of it with electricity, right? We got this nice air flowing, Fort Deer Electric. None of us put these wires, I don't guess any of y'all did put these wires in or anything. We have no control over them. We didn't help with them, but we reap the benefits. And then we complain when they're taken away. And like shade, these things give us comfort, but yet we complain. You know the old saying, you don't miss something until it's gone? We have a well at home, a pump underground, and that thing never goes out when it's pretty weather outside. Pressure switch goes out when it's raining or snowing, or I have to pull the pump with it's 80 foot in the ground and I'm pulling the wires and the pipe and everything. I like to complain about it because it's like, man, if they ever bring city water out here, but the water's so much cleaner than city water anyway. It's nicer, but it's nice as long as I go in there and turn that tap on. But if I ever turn that tap on and nothing comes out, I'm like, So I'm right there with you, okay? We complain when things are taken away. And in the last verse, this is verse 11, this is God talking. Nineveh has more than 120,000 people. They can't tell right from wrong. Nineveh also has a lot of cattle. So shouldn't I show concern for that great city? Now here's what I want to ask you. What's more important than shade? 100,000 people?
Yep.
Jonah was ready to just roll over and die because he lost that shade. But he was just waiting to watch God destroy these people. The livestock, other things. But let's look at the people. This is why I said, who is your Nineveh? Okay, we're talking about the people. Were they created in the image of God?
Yep.
Did they choose to follow God before Jonah got there?
Nope.
No. But were they still made in the image of God even before they chose to follow God? Who is your enemy? Y'all think about this. I'm being very serious. Who is your enemy? Well, I meant on this earth. Who do you consider enemies? Who do you actually look at? I think Andy's thinking Democrats.
There you go.
Satan, however you want to put it.
Those two are interchangeable.
What about people from another country? Are they enemies?
I'm gonna wait a while about it.
You can wait a while about answering. Another skin tone. You know we're all the same color skin, right? We're all just different shades of brown. Have you ever seen a white person? I mean, albino maybe, but I'm talking about, am I white? No.
Well, you look white.
Well,
Not white as compared to that paint
yeah,
though.
yeah.
Oh, his face is a little bit red.
Good Caucasian.
That color's white. That color is white. My skin is not that. It's browner than that.
That's sunshine.
All right. What about people that don't believe in God? Are they the enemy?
I don't know, my fifth period is the enemy.
Well, I wrote down here people at work that don't believe in God.
I don't know, sir, they're just my fifth
People in
period.
your family that mistreat others. Are they your enemy? People that like a different style of music. You know, I listen to hip hop all the time. Every time I pull up at a red light, I listen to it.
Yeah.
Were they also not made in the image of God, though? Do they deserve to have a chance to repent?
Where are you finding all these questions? Boy.
God told me to write it down.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, you got that one good.
So I ask you again, who is your Nineveh? Who is the group of people that are also God's children, made in the image of God, even if they don't follow Him? And they need to hear His gospel, but you don't want to take it to them. I want everybody to think about this really. I'm being very serious. Everybody think about this really hard. Who has God told you specifically to go to, but it just kills your soul to think about one, having to talk to them, or two, that they might actually get forgiveness, and you don't get to see them get what they deserve? Can you honestly say, I can't, I'm still working on it. Can you honestly say that you can swallow your pride and go to them? And they may not respond like Nineveh did to Jonah. Nineveh repented from the top to the bottom. The people we talk to may not respond that way, but that's not we can't make that decision for them. Right? What does Mark 16:15 say? Jesus said unto them, go into all the world, preach the good news to everyone, preach the gospel to every creature. We know in advance most people are not going to respond. But what about the ones that do? One more thing to think about here. God sent Jonah to Nineveh, not somebody else. Who did God send to Nineveh? Jonah. What if God is sending you to someone and you don't go? You run the other direction. Will God send somebody else? Maybe. He might. But you might be the one He's wanting to send. You might be the one person that could reach that person that you really don't think you have anything in common with, or dare I say, that you don't like them. So I want you to do something right now. I would call this an invitation time, but we're not gonna have a song or anything, but I want y'all to do something right now. I want you to ask God right now, where are you supposed to go? Ask God, please tell me where I'm supposed to go, what I'm supposed to do. Who am I supposed to talk to? And don't think about how wicked that person is or that group of people are. Don't think about how much you despise the way they act, okay? Or even that you might, dare I say, hate them. We're told not to hate. If we're told not to hate, does that mean we can hate, or would he tell us not to do something we could do? We can hate in our heart. It's the same as murder as far as a sin. And while we're being honest with ourselves, there are people that's hard for me to talk to also, okay? I'm saying this to myself too. But when I'm told to go somewhere, to somebody, that's what I need to do. And if I'm calling myself a child of God, and we're all regulars here tonight, I think we all call ourselves children of God tonight. If I call myself a child of God, then I want to do what he tells me to, right? Am I gonna go to him then? I'm gonna follow him, whether I like it or not. Even if I'd rather sit under a tree and watch them get firestorm. That's it. See, that wasn't even 30 minutes. Let me start over. I'm kidding. Joking. When you go home to read your Bible at home, take a look at the book of Jonah and read through it, and don't just go, I know this story, I'm just gonna skim it. It's only 4 chapters. Read it. Read it. Since I said it's only 4 chapters, Dean was like, oh, I guess I'll do that then. It's only 4 chapters. Ask God to speak to you through that, and ask yourself, who's my enemy? Who's my enemy? Do we have any prayer requests or anything we need to pray for tonight, other than Brother Jimmy?
Brother Jimmy.
Yep.
Definitely Brother Jimmy.
and I,
Anthony and Ike? What's wrong with them?
Anthony's elbow and Ike body.
Just all of Ike.
All of Ike.
I think we need to pray for Sylvia and Deborah too, then, sounds like.
Yeah.
And hope.
And hope.
And hope.
Definitely hope.
Yeah.
She's got handling okay.
Anybody have a word to say tonight? It's only 6:30, we're basically done other than prayers. Everybody have anything to say?
God just sat right here and gave me 4 different names just then. I mean,
Amen.
just kind of came hitting me, and I'm like,
And you wrote them down and crossed them out all in the same
Like, do I have to, but I will.
It's not easy, is it, Deborah?
I got 4 of them.
If we're honest with ourselves, it's not easy. If it was easy, Jonah would have done it the first time, yes, sir.
We need to remember our country and the events that happened 23 years ago.
Yeah,
And the people that are still dealing and suffering with that.
yeah, very true, very true.
This is not a prayer request, but this is an announcement that I was asked to announce from our school. Thursday, October the 24th, from 5:30 to 6:30, we're having something new at Hollis Powell School. We're starting it this year. It's gonna be a trunk or treat, a community-wide trunk or treat. It will be at Hollis Powell, the parking lot. They're asking any churches, any community clubs that would be interested, like if anyone here would like to do a trunk, park your car in a parking spot, do your trunk, you can pass out whatever, you can pass out Bibles, there's nothing, we're not, turning things like that away because we're on a school property.
Good, good.
And, just let me know. I would like to know probably at least by the end of this month, so we can assign parking spots.
October 24th.
October 24th, 5:30 to 6:30. You can come and set up at 4:15 to 5:15. Do what, Deborah?
When's the one here? What number?
Is that a Saturday? That is a Saturday, no, that's a Thursday.
Okay.
Ours will be on a Saturday
So ours
here.
is the 19th, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's the 24th?
This is Thursday, October the 24th. And it would be great if we could have, several cars, and all of the teachers or grade levels will do cars at school, and there's tons of people in the community that would like to come and do.
It'd be good to have something in the church though, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Palestine, they are invited, Mount Vernon, us, and there's a church in Fultz there, I can't think of the name of it. They're invited.
What time did you say, 4:30?
Well,
5:30 to 6:30 when the kids will be coming through.
5:30, 6:30.
4:15. Right, 7.
I'll announce it again several times in between.
Yes, ma'am.
My sister is having surgery Friday. Her name's Kendra. So y'all can be praying for her. And then, one of Gunner's classmates lost her father a few days ago.
I was just fixing to say that.
For them, he had two little girls, one 7-year-old, one 8-year-old.
Miss Johnny, I know she went to her eye specialist yesterday in Jackson. He usually sees her here in Dyersburg, but they usually send you over there. I haven't talked to her, bad me. But they send you over there usually to get more intensive tests done. And I know this because I'm there. I do that. Oh, and my sister, she got some bad reports on her eyes. She just went for a regular little eye checkup, and the doctor was like, "What have you done?" And she's like, "Nothing." He said, "You've not hit your head or been in a car accident?" And she was like, "No." Something about trauma to, she's got a cataract on the left one and trauma to the right one. So she's being sent to the same specialist.
And that was just a regular,
Just a regular-
optometrist visit.
I go tomorrow for them to check both of mine.
If they say that about you, we'll know Marty's hit you. I'm joking about it.
Mother went to Kirkland's yesterday and they did blood. She got a really good report. She walked from the parking lot and up through all the stuff she had to do at Kirkland's, back and forth for lab, and upstairs and downstairs and such as that, and back to the vehicle, and
No oxygen or anything.
no oxygen, not winded or anything, so.
It's cause she walks up and down this ramp.
And then like I said, and all of her blood work and stuff was good, so I praise the Lord for that, cause it's
Yeah.
been, it was not too long that things were really, really bad.
I don't know if this is an announcement or yet or not, but I asked Jimmy the other night when we were gonna start Tuesday nights back, and he said after fair. So I don't know if that's this coming Tuesday, or if we're gonna wait till the next week. But, what do y'all,
So you probably see how he's doing, I would think.
Well, it's about time you showed up.
but whenever we do, Sylvia got ugly at the business meeting and insisted we do it at 6:30. She didn't get ugly, I'm kidding, she did not get ugly.
She has to bring supper.
Sylvia's not capable of being
It'll
ugly.
only be 30 minutes late.
That's right.
Do we know what we're doing if we
But we'll do, instead of from 6 to 7, we do start
They
back
said we were
to
doing
6:30 to 7:30.
Oh,
We always
and
go back.
Sylvia's gonna teach them since they're the ones that picked up that.
Anything
book.
else, prayer request or a word or anything? Marty's here, we can stop now.
Personally, I'd like to see our women's group get started, men, whatever y'all wanna do, but our women's group get started next Tuesday,
Hello,
personally.
hey,
You
This
know,
coming Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, me too, that's what Vanessa said, we need to wait and see about Brother Jimmy. Is that, cause he'll wanna be here, won't he?
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
okay,
We'll,
where is he?
if the women want. Hang on.
Okay, alright, okay,
Injury on his leg, I don't know who, I can hear that all left here.
okay, alright, I'll let them know, I love you, bye.
Who had an injury on his leg?
The Don Lehman family got a son missing. They said
They missing?
from
Yeah.
from
Jackson.
from Jackson, and the last ping on his phone was in Lauderdale County. They said he had an injury, a leg injury or something, so he might be having some trauma and stuff from that. But they've got people looking for him, been missing since the 5th. So,
Who'd you say?
Don Lehman,
Yeah.
it's his son,
Grandson.
grandson? Grandson, yeah, that's right, you're right. Mother was talking, I was trying to process, but anyway, so he's been missing, so that's 6 days. Yeah,
Everybody probably knows Don.
and like I said, they pinged the phones the last ping they had on the phone was in Lauderdale County, so they don't know, hadn't had any luck finding him. Remember him and remember that family.
Absolutely.
How
Anybody else?
You know, when I hear stuff like that, I think of
Preacher Don.
his grandson, right?
That's where I know the name, okay. I wasn't thinking of preacher, I was just thinking, where do I know that name? But yeah, Brother Don Lane.
Yeah, I think Ruby was a Lehman.
Okay.
Yours was still
Yeah, yeah.
All right, if that's everything, then we'll stand. We'll have a word of prayer and be dismissed. Anthony, do you mind leading us in a word of prayer tonight, please? To mention these that were mentioned.
Lord, we thank you tonight. Thank you for Mission Brother Jimmy's talk to us tonight. What it means to us, Lord. Lord, we all have places you want us to go in our life, things you want us to do and accomplish. Pray for your guidance and that, Lord, all those. We've had many lifted up tonight, Lord, and need our prayers and need your healing power, Lord. This one is lost. Remember Brother Jimmy, heal his back, his knees, Lord. Pray for Miss Johnny. Pray for Sister Kathy. So many others that, Lord, we can't even really remember all of them. There are so many needs. So many of our church family have physical problems, physical needs. We just pray that you lift us all up. Just heal those in the field, Brother Light. So many things you've got with us now as we go back home. Pray that you be with us this week. Bring us back to your house safely Sunday. Now we honor you and worship you in Jesus' name.
And don't forget the trailer needs to be emptied.